Nick, I want to bring you into that conversation on that. As a former NMP, the NMP scheme came out because one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons, was to introduce diversity in Parliament. And certainly because we are seeing a lot more single issues crop up now and single issue voters now, and who expect that from their elected members of Parliament. Do you think it's fair? The NMP scheme was to some extent meant for that, for them to champion single issues or more. Is that still valid and relevant?
That's a really good question. I kind of grapple with it myself because in 2012, when I went into Parliament, I actually went in thinking that I would be sort of representing the sports fraternity. That's how the idea was sort of mooted when I started thinking about the possibility. But then I realized that sports, arts, and media came from the same functional group. And at that stage, there was a very good candidate representing the arts fraternity, Janice Cole. And so I thought to myself, it would be quite a shame if they were forced to choose, because they can only choose one per functional group. So in the end, I went in as a sort of independent. When I was speaking to the select committee, they said, what are you going to talk about? So I said, potentially sports, international affairs, the media, and defense and security. Those are the sort of areas that I'm quite interested in. So they said, wow, 4 for the price of 1. All right, we can do that, right? Okay, they didn't really say that, but I think that was the position that I sort of went in. And at that stage, just sharing my own experience as to why I felt that NMP scheme at that time was worthwhile. Post 2011, I think ruling party government was doing a bit of soul searching, and they said, look, let's try to do things to bring the country, a little bit more together. Let's do things for people so that they feel better about the country. And in the sports sort of conversation, a lot of it started to become about mass participation. It was, aqua aerobics and Zumba and line dancing. And I was thinking that's not really sports, and I spoke up as much to say that if you think about sports,
there are a lot of aunties in my neighborhood who
vigorously
disagree with you.
Fitness activities is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with
Nick, you're an
fitness
auntie killer.
activity.
You cannot say that kind of thing.
Cannot.
But when it comes to sports, the traditional notion of sports, there is a high performance end game, right?
Fair enough.
You have the kids, you have mass participation, but at some point it builds up to the pointy end of the development pyramid. And so I spoke out quite a fair bit on that. I said, we can't, let's not lose sight of the end goal, the point of some of these things. And then I could see a little bit of the tension between maybe national objectives, which are very broad and go to the ground, and it's talking about, the impacting positively the largest number of people that you can. But on an issue like sports, you can't neglect the top end, the Joseph Schoolings, the guys who are going to win the Olympic gold medals, So I was glad to have had that choice, and I could see a bit of a tension there. And I think the conventional wisdom was that elected members have a lot on their plates. They have their constituency, a lot of constituents that they have to represent, they have to engage, they have to address municipal issues. At the same time, they should consider, national policy, debating, questioning, voting for national laws. And at the same time, many of them have like secondary, responsibilities. Some office holders have multiple hats that they need to wear. And then on top of that, you say, okay, you have to be a champion for sports. You have to be a champion for arts. You have to have an interest in all these different things. It's tough. So I thought at that stage it was nice to have that sort of NMP cohort that came in to represent arts and sports to a certain extent and different issues. If the whole point is to have more diverse voices, then of course having more members of the opposition, potentially from more different opposition parties, would lend, diversity to the texture of Parliament. But does that mean that they would then be able to focus on, as you say, those single issues? I'm not entirely sure, and there's no sort of guarantee for that. But yeah, I think that's something that we see in many sort of governments, parliaments around the world. So if we take away that raison d'etre, which was, to have, if we don't have enough non-PAP voices in Parliament, so the NMP scheme is there to ensure that, we've got a fair amount of opposition voices now. And I talked to my friends who were old-timer NMPs, and they said in their time, maybe in 20 years ago or 15, 20 years ago, they got a lot more airtime in Parliament. The media was more interested in their opinions because they were sort of the alternative voice. Nowadays, I don't know. It's pretty hard to stand out, with the number of elected opposition voices in Parliament.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's a very interesting point, because I didn't really think about how the impact of having more pluralism in elected parliamentarians itself would have an impact on the NMP scheme. So that's rather interesting.
Is it important to NMPs to stand out in Parliament? Because it's more difficult to stand out, right? Is that something that's important for NMPs?
I think so. I think when you enter Parliament, you are encouraged that when we joined, there's always these stories of NMPs who went in and said nothing for the entire term. And they said, then really what are you there for? So I think the point of us being there is to speak up in an independent, non-partisan way to express views that you believe in, genuinely believe in. So potentially maybe not about standing out, but to be able to have an impact.
And
Otherwise,
what is the
are you
value
there
you're
for?
bringing?
Yeah. And if nobody listens, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, then what was the point of having you as an
An
NMP?
MP speaks to an empty house.
Yeah.